everybody. I hope you have a lovely upcoming 4th of July. I know that we're not because we're sitting here and watched the sequel to a previous 4th of July pick, I Know What You Did Last Summer. I Still Know What You Did Last Summer, which is also celebrating its 20-year anniversary, released in 2003. This movie's pretty bad. We won't bury the lead here.
Nope.
Not great.
No. I think that I've been excited about these anniversaries
until now.
And just, well, I just think that I liked my other anniversary pick, Psycho 2. This one, being a follow-up to another movie, it's not good. No, Matt, I just feel bad. It's sort of an apology. It's a half-assed apology.
Wait, did you? That's right. We kind of. So here's the thing.
I still say Matt picked this one. I don't care what you say.
I say that this was indirectly a group pick.
Yes, that's right. I forgot
group
that you.
Pick.
I forgot.
It has nothing to do with me.
God damn it, Brian.
Yeah, it was a 3-1 vote. It was. So here's the
Those
most.
damn
I'm going to
Kelly
give you
brothers.
the positive. I'm going to give you my positive, and I'm going to give you my negative.
Yep.
All right.
Your AC, then your DC.
Yes. The best thing I can say about this is that I'm not sure if you guys remember, but the teaser trailer for this movie was fucking iconic. Which was Jennifer Love Hewitt just having a therapy session, and then out of nowhere, from the window behind the therapist, the hook-handed man in a slicker just bursts out of the window and just says, "I still know what you did last summer." And I'm just bringing it up because, man, I miss when the teaser trailers for movies was just made out of brand new footage that they shot exclusively to be a teaser for a movie. The worst part about the movie is everything. But I feel
when the teaser's so good that the movie just can't fucking.
The movie just can't.
Yeah.
Dude, the amount of stuff that I read, like if you scroll through the IMDb trivia on this page, it's almost exclusively just how disappointed everybody was. Like Freddie Prinze Jr. has still never seen this movie. He's like, I shot it, it came out, everyone said it was garbage, and I just said, I'm good. Jennifer Love Hewitt said she only signed up for it because she thought it was going to be the same director as the first movie and was like deeply disappointed when it wasn't.
So was that director. He said that the movie killed the possibility of a franchise, which is kind of untrue because there was a third one after it.
Like
and
a
also
decade later. That was like a soft reboot, if nothing else.
How the fuck do you even have a franchise that has to add a word to the name every time you make another one?
Yeah.
And eventually has a finite amount of possibilities. You know what I mean? Like, I know what you did last summer. I still know. Like, I haven't forgotten. I'll always know.
Yeah.
I've forgotten, but somebody keeps reminding me. I have Alzheimer's. That's
my calendar, my iPhone calendar still knows what you did last summer.
Yeah. So
the notification went off. I'm pretty sure this happened, but I don't remember asking for the notification last
Can we
summer.
also admit, like, look, one of these days we're going to actually do a proper Scream 2 episode. And when Scream 2 came out, everybody at the time, at least in my age demographic at that time, made fun of the reveal of Billy's mother as the killer. And it was like, Billy's mother, like the way that it's delivered, all that. That pales in comparison to Will is Ben's son. Like,
Ben's son. Do you get the joke, everybody?
So listen, in 1998 when I first saw this movie, I was like, damn, this sucks.
Look, let's not pretend that slasher movies aren't dumb as shit. They're dumb as shit. That's why we love them.
Yeah.
But Kevin Williamson has the magic pen that can make the dumbest shit and the very intelligent blend in a really fun, interesting way. And let's also keep in mind that when we actually did do the episode on I Know What You Did Last Summer, I think for all of us, it was like, this movie is still fun, but in comparison to everything else that was coming out in the late 90s, like, retrospectively, it's kind of more on the lower end of the totem pole. It's still a fun watch.
But I also want to be very clear that if I didn't say it when we discussed I Know What You Did Last Summer, I want to say it now, that even when that movie came out, it felt a little light.
Yeah.
But I wasn't watching it necessarily for it being good or being so bad it's good. I watched it because I wanted to dress like Freddie Prinze Jr., get my hair cut like Freddie Prinze Jr., and I wanted to listen to the music. It was totally a Freddie Prinze Jr. and that goddamn soundtrack vehicle for me.
It felt like the predecessor to the PG-13 horror boom that would come later. You know what I mean? Like it was,
and that's
sort of
the one thing.
line.
That's the thing I was going to say. There's not a lot of positive check marks here. What I will say about this movie is that I agree with you. I think I Know What You Did Last Summer really feels like a PG-13 slasher
If you told
movie.
me it was, I would have believed you.
Yeah,
right.
This
But
one doesn't.
it
I feel like
checks
this
all the
one really
boxes.
amps up the kill and the violence in it.
Yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
not necessarily better. Like there's a handful of moments that I'm like, oh, that was cool. Like Jeffrey Combs' body reveal is great. Like
His
that.
Jeffrey
whole-
Combs being in this,
in
I
it was-
completely
I forgot. I knew all
Well, 'cause
about Jack Black.
I watched it. Yeah, I mean, I remember Jack Black, but like, as much of a Jeffrey Combs stan as I am, I haven't watched this movie since '98. I didn't know who Jeffrey Combs was in 1998. I mean, I was a junior in high school or something like that when I saw this movie. And,
I also forgot that radio giveaways were a thing, but my mom won one to Disney World when I was a kid.
I won tickets to the movies one time. So
Nice. That's as cool.
man, Matt's just shitting all over everything today.
Equal value right there.
Dude, when Jeffrey Combs popped up with those like with that big old top jaw of teeth, like I was so amped, and he was great. Like you say, there wasn't there wasn't. This movie.
He's the
was
high
pretty
point of
bad.
the movie, though.
He's the high point of the movie.
It's
for
just
me.
because it's Jeffrey Combs, though. Like, it's not good.
Yeah.
And
Dude, I mean, John
he was there
Hawkes
for
shows
2
up, and I
days.
couldn't give 2 fucks.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I'm like, bummer
Yeah.
for you, dog.
So there's two things that I
Oh wait,
had
no,
to-
Orgy's Blue Monday plays, and I did have a huge pop for that.
Yeah, you do love that song,
I
dude.
do love that song.
Check out his episode of One Hit Thunder about it. So there are two things that I wrote down that I feel like are so minor but so encapsulate this thing. So Freddie Prinze Jr. and his buddy get attacked. Freddie Prinze Jr. ends up in the hospital, and the doctor and the cop are looking over Freddie Prinze Jr. and the doctor says this line of dialogue. And he's like, yeah, but his story hasn't changed. He still says Ben Willis attacked him with a hook hand, and he was wearing a slicker, and he killed his body, and then he drove off in a BMW. And I was like, why is he really stressing that the BMW is the most unrealistic part of this story? And then shortly, almost immediately after that, we get a very unnecessary but blissfully very short-lived karaoke scene of Jennifer Love Hewitt singing "I Will
man.
Survive,"
Which is
That actually
track
would-
number 2 on the soundtrack. I was considering this. I was considering this for soundtracking because there was this Hoover Phonic song that played,
Hoover
which
fucking Phonic. Wow.
I didn't know was a band. And then I was like, oh, that's got to be like a one, and they're fucking huge overseas. But I was like, oh, great. I hope that's on the soundtrack. Maybe we'll do soundtracking. And then I looked and I was like, well, then we're not doing soundtracking for this movie at all. Because Jennifer Love Hewitt's fucking karaoke track is track number 2.
Jennifer Lovett's solo song "How Do I Deal" is track number 2. At karaoke, she just sings Gloria Gaynor's "I Will Survive."
Oh, wow. I'm sorry. I just read the artist and made an assumption. And you know what happens when you make assumptions, everybody?
I'm
Makes
also
an
kind of
ass-
taken aback that Imogen Heap is on this soundtrack.
Yeah.
That 1998 feels wildly early for an
It
Imogen
feels early,
Heap
but Imogen
appearance.
Heap has been around since like 96. So like
I
I was
guess
kind of
so.
surprised too. But
Well,
I, that's still early.
what did I just hear?
Yeah, what was that?
Well, I farted. I
It sounded delightful.
I busted open Field Day Summer Ale from Berkshire Brewing Company. I picked it because of summer, and I picked it before I watched the movie. I would have maybe gotten like a red stripe or something for Jack Black, but I picked this summer ale. It's a hoppy
I have-
American wheat. What do you got going on?
I made myself a dark and stormy the right way because
Yes.
she
Okay,
says
that's the right way.
to put Tabasco in it, and that's just psychotic.
That's insanity.
Yeah, like Regular, dark, and stormy.
So you put Cholula in it instead.
Yes, like a normal human being. But I had some Kraken rum, I had some ginger beer, and I had limes, and I was like, well, I gotta do it. I mean, it's just a gimme.
Boom.
But
Yeah.
I did want to say that one time Megan and I years ago went to this amazing restaurant up in Cleveland, and I had a dark and stormy made there, and they made it in an incredible way. Where what they did is they took a piece of cinnamon, they lit it on fire, they put it under a cloche, and then they put it out on top of the drink and immediately put a cloche on top of that, so that all the smoke stayed on top of the drink, and then when you take the cloche off, it flows down the sides. It was cool as hell. I'm almost positive it's just a dark and stormy with smoke on it.
With smoked cinnamon. That sounds great.
It was still, and it also tasted good. So
Yeah. Well, cheers. I totally forgot this took place in a tropical location, or else I wouldn't be drinking this. But that sounds lovely. But they also dropped Mai Tai in the middle of it. The same.
I was gonna do a Mai Tai before I watched it. I was like,
my fucking Tai.
Yeah, I don't even know what's in a Mai Tai. What is in a Mai Tai? Is it tequila?
It's a rum
light
drink.
rum drink though, isn't it?
And it's like a cherry pineapple rum drink.
Oh, I would never make one of those because I don't like light rum and I don't like pineapple.
No. But my brain is now taken up with all of Jack Black's dreadlocks. Culturally inappropriate dreadlocks.
Dude. All right, so speaking of Jack Black,
smoking in the pool is great.
Look,
the Doritos.
Speaking of Jack Black, in this movie, I actually really like his kill scene. It's one of like the few on-screen kills that we get in the entire movie, so I'll take what I can get.
I burst out laughing at his reaction. Like,
He's
not that, not that weapon.
Yeah, picks anything else to murder me with.
The axe. Yeah.
So he grabs shears, right?
Yes.
And I'm immediately thinking of the burning. Mm-hmm. I have a fun fact for you guys that I didn't know. You guys may have known this. Did you know who helped produce and make The Burning?
No.
George Harrison of the Beatles.
What?
So George Harrison.
Incredible.
So George Harrison, the infamous story is that the funding for Monty Python's Life of Brian was pulled. And they didn't think they were going to make the movie. But George Harrison read the script, and his review was, I want to watch this movie. So he just wrote him a check for the full production of Life is Brian. And he started a small studio called Handmade Films. And they were films produced by George Harrison. And the only way to get the movie made was basically George Harrison had to read the script and decide it was a movie he would want to watch.
He just had to like Gladiator, thumbs up or thumbs down.
Basically, and not a ton of like massive hits that came out there. Like The Burning is among the most famous ones, but also early in there, Time Bandits, produced by George Harrison.
Weird.
The second I found out The Burning, I was and With Nail and I was one of theirs that they produced.
Wow. Okay.
But yeah, I was like, there's a fun little fact to kill some time on this episode that we have nothing to say.
Yes, thank you.
Can we also point out, this dawned on me, that Wilson Benson's entire plan hinges on Freddie Prinze Jr. declining the offer of tickets.
I feel like he was still going to show up, wasn't he? He could have gotten there to the Bahamas regardless because they paid for the fucking plane tickets. Also, how does the killer from the first movie, who everybody thought was dead, isn't dead? How does he have money to, one, send his son to college, and two, pay for 4 people to fly to the Bahamas?
He's a white-collar criminal that turned killer.
I'm assuming.
A lot of tax fraud.
The Bahamas are going to be expensive no matter what, But I do feel like since the whole thing is like, we've officially gone into off season. Like it's probably a lot cheaper. It's like the cheapest time.
He doesn't have a job, Matt.
That's true. Listen,
he's a fisherman.
Of all of the people, like this
he's a
I
fisher
feel like
of men, Kyle.
Yes, well done.
This movie really highlights.
Bring it in for you.
This really highlights what makes Scream work. Like makes the Scream franchise work, though, is like the idea. Ben Wilson is not a fucking iconic killer that we're gonna have to keep bringing back movie after movie, like a Jason or a Freddy or a Michael Myers. Like,
If he
he's
was
just,
supernatural, I'd be okay with it.
if he was, maybe, but it's like, it's just a dude in a fisherman's suit with a hook. Like, anybody can don that costume. Like, that's what makes the Scream movies so fun, is that every single one is a some form of a murder mystery. So let's say theoretically this did in fact spawn a franchise. Is that going to be what every fucking movie is? Is like,
Right.
it's still Ben Wilson, but like, or Ben Willis, but like, what person helped get him there this time? And I also love that this movie ostensibly ends with Jennifer Love Hewitt's character getting murdered. There's no like her waking
but
up from a
who's-
dream or like.
But
Who's
who's the killer?
I think it's still Ben.
This movie blows, and it's not like everybody's fine in it. Like, Brandy's fine, Kai Pfeiffer's fine, like Jennifer Love Hewitt's fine. Everybody's okay. Everybody does their job, but it is a bad movie, and that's the thing that I wanted to point back to. You were talking about these slashers that sort of like, especially these teen slashers, you know, like Scream, or we talk about Urban Legend being like in the mix. Like, we had a lot
Urban
more
Legend
fun
is a
with-
better I Know What You Did Last Summer, by the way.
Yes,
1000%.
exactly. But like, then this type of movie is why like people didn't like slashers as they progressed in the 80s, and then they didn't like these teen slashers of the late 90s, early 2000s as they progressed, because ultimately it does just turn into people being tricked into thinking that they're scared, or running away from something that they don't need to be running away from, until ultimately they run away from the right thing 90 minutes into the movie, and you're just like, and they scream at the right time. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
this becomes empty. This becomes completely empty.
Well, in
even,
this movie-
even if there's interesting kills, which you're right, this is probably more gory and interesting than the other ones, but
Well, this has a
everything
much
else
higher
sucks.
kill count than the first
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, I think the first
Right.
one has like 3 kills.
I think 3 total. Yeah.
Like this one also, like, you have to also factor in that like it does these things, but it's still like a bad version of a better scene. You know what I mean? And like, something that jumps to mind is like, dude, My Bloody Valentine did a better job of finding a body inside of a dryer than what we got in
Yeah.
this movie. Like, it's just like, it's like cool. Like,
Yeah, like, take 5 more minutes to think about it, and you will come up with a better version of that.
It's
Just
like
try
even
harder.
Yeah, even if we were going to say, you know what, yeah, the kills in this movie were cool. When you boil it down to, it's like, great, this movie's an hour and 40 minutes, and there are 2.5 to 3 minutes of cool things that happen
Yeah.
during
Yeah,
it.
the
Like,
ratio's bad, dog. Yeah.
yeah, like, because we do get that gnarly, like, hook in the throat out of nowhere in the kitchen scene. Like, there's moments that I'm like, oh, man,
That was
that's
the only
pretty
that was
dope.
besides Jack Black stuff. That was the only one that I liked. I was like, the line, the delivery, like, everything was great, but then ultimately, like, it's done in 30 seconds.
Yeah,
It just dragged
'cause-
off, and that's it.
Which is a way worse Nick Cage movie.
It's on. You watch it on double speed. It's great.
Yeah, guys, we all collectively agreed on this and took that collective hit. Scott, you co-signed this, as we all know.
Yep. Actually, you were the first. You John Hancocked it. You signed the biggest signature on it, if I remember correctly.
It is mind-blowing
And heartbreaking.
how many original scripts are written every year but are never made.
So we seek out these scripts and bring them to life with full audio production and professional actors.
Check us out at Undiscovered Scripts,
Movies made of paper.
wherever you get your podcasts.
Free.
So, Kyle, what did you want to double feature this with?
Club Dread.
Of course you
it's
did.
just-
Are you serious? That was my first
No
pick
way.
too. I love it. Holy shit! I'm not even mad. I had a bunch, but I was between
yeah,
this
dude.
week and last week's episodes, we're
just
just
seems-
fucking
yeah,
mind meld. It's
Yeah,
amazing.
mind meld, baby. Yeah, no, Club Dread. It was just like Jack Black on the resort, like really a much more fun movie.
Yeah.
But
the kills
also,
are
it
great.
fits into the lexicon of how disappointing the first watch of I Still Know What You Did Last Summer is.
Yeah.
If you liked I Know What You Did Last Summer, because Club Dread, I believe, was the movie that came out from Broken Lizard right after Super Troopers, right?
Right after
Yes.
Super Troopers,
And Super
people
Troopers
were
is like
disappointed
I was
as
so
all hell.
I don't think I've seen it a second time
Yeah.
because I love Super Troopers so much. I should give it another chance.
Oh, I think I actually had it on the list to watch.
Because-
You were-
because let's
we
be
could
honest.
fuck with a Club Dread on this show.
Then they followed it up with Beer Fest, which is arguably a bigger home run than even Super Troopers for me.
Yeah, which is hilarious because the guy that's never drank a beer loves the movie
loves Beer
about
Fest.
beer.
Yeah, it's a good time.
Well, as I've said many
it's an
times, it's the
American
only-
Werewolf in London parody in the middle of it.
Yeah, not
It's so
again.
good. Not again. All right, Scott, what are you going to go with then, since Kyle just ripped that out of your cold, dead hands?
I feel
Your cold
Colton
Club
Heston.
Dread
Just wait a
hands.
second. Maybe I let you go since I do have a third one. I think you may. Are we gonna go for the Triple Crown where you?
that would be nuts.
No. I didn't have
another one of
Club
mine?
Dread. No. Oh, maybe.
No, the
let's-
Triple Crown is you both pick something that I wanted to pick.
We'll see. I wrote
why don't-
down a movie that disappointed me the first time I watched it, but then the more I watched it, the more I appreciated it. We actually did it fairly recently, but it's still a good ass time. I went with April Fool's Day.
Oh, okay.
I just would rather be watching April Fool's Day.
Yeah.
No, that's fair. I'm only slightly disappointed that you didn't go with Horror of Party Beach because
What a delight!
that movie is so much fun.
Yeah.
And if you had picked Horror of Party Beach, my second backup, which is actually a third up, I suppose, would have been Killer Workout, strictly due to the fact that you almost get the tanning bed kill that you get at the beginning of Killer Workout here.
I will say that the zip tie was effective and like it kind of freaked me out. Like I was like, oh damn, like
Except you look at the runtime and you're like, there's no way that Jennifer Love Hewitt is getting murdered this soon.
no, right. You're like, geez, the half hour left.
I mean, if they would have killed her with a half hour left and had
Better
Brandy
movie.
be the final
Better
girl,
movie. What a fucking
Totally.
twist!
I guess Scream kind of does that, where you present this like leading lady to then get killed,
But much
early on.
earlier, yeah.
Yeah.
But I was just trying to think of if there's another movie. Yeah, like it wouldn't make any
no, they
sense.
never
I
do
would
it
say
in the
Dream
second-
Master. I would say Dream Master
Dream Master.
introduces
Fair.
the original survivors of the Dream Warriors and kills all of them to introduce the new batch.
That's a good point. That's a
Yeah.
good point. Huh.
But all right, so Kyle, what is something that you watched, read, looked at, listened to, thought about that you want to discuss and promote?
Yeah,
real quick?
dude. I mean, it's nothing that I would like necessarily recommend, but it's just like a point of interest. I watched Carnival Magic, which is
Okay.
a movie by Al Adamson. Who there's all of this to lead into the next thing I want to watch, which is a documentary about his death. He was a film director from the '60s who made these like really low budget sort of like. I mean, the one Carnival Magic is not horror, but it is a very kind of disturbing kids movie that takes place at a carnival with a talking chimp and like a drunken like it is fully immersed in carny culture without kind of like being like, hey, this is carny culture. You know what I mean? It's not really exploitative as much as it is like this is what he did was just make a movie within carny culture. It's very odd, and it's not like a great movie, but like I was just so engrossed, maybe voyeuristically a little bit, but like
Wait,
it's
hold on a second. Are you about to say that you still haven't seen Blood and Flesh?
I've not seen Blood and Flesh. This
Oh,
is actually
Blood
my
and
first-
Flesh is
yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah,
I
so
think both Scott and I have recommended that in the past for like
Yeah.
what did we watch?
Is that
this
right?
week.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I
I had to think a second. I'm like, I know that name. Why do I know that name?
I was not. I was like, not sure if I knew the name because of Kyle or because
Yeah.
of me watching something about him. But yeah,
No, it's kind of
actually
a-
a really, really good doc, and I don't watch a
that
whole lot of docs.
That director is a blind spot for me, not only from his body of work, but then like his story. So like that documentary seems super interesting to me, and I've had it on my list for a while. But part of me kind of wanted to see some of his flicks before that too.
Yeah.
And I just grabbed Carnival Magic on like a used Blu-ray thing at the Archive in Bridgeport, just on a whim. And it's not a movie I recommend, but it's just sort of fun to watch those like. God, it's like those movies from the 60s and 70s are so interesting to me because it's like people got their hands on a camera and they had these grandiose ideas to be doing a thing, right? And it's like we see that now in our culture with iPhones, but serious, like we see that in our culture with like the accessibility of equipment, but then not being able to like execute on a certain level. Whereas there, like you kind of like it's almost comforting. It's almost comforting. Like you see them execute a flick on a level that you're like, oh my god, they had. He still had money. Like he had money to go and do this thing, to process the film, to get all this stuff. It's just like this. The scale in which people made things at that time is so interesting to me. That they also just used what was around them, which was a fucking carnival, and there's a chimpanzee, and there's a Houdini-esque magician, and it's just like it's really wild. It was a nice thing to like after a long day at work to just like put on and like sort of like absorb. There wasn't a lot of paying attention because it was kind of long and drawn out, but even for 86 minutes. But it's interesting, and I'm excited to watch that documentary now that I have like an idea of a thing that he did before.
Yeah, no, fair. So as listeners learned last week, I was on a little bit of a road trip, poisoning the brains of my friends with movies that caused them harm. So I haven't had
just big middle finger as you left each location.
I haven't had time to watch anything fully new, but I'm halfway through The Muppets Mayhem, and it is without a doubt the best Muppets project since the Jason Segel movie in 2011. It absolutely captures what makes the Muppets work, which is abstract absurdist humor mixed with like a ton of heart. And the concept, for those of you who don't know, is it tells the story of this girl who's working at a record label that's about to completely shut down because of the new digital movement. And she's like trying to find something that can save the record label. And as she's shredding all of these old contracts for her boss, she finds a contract for the Electric Mayhem, the band from the Muppets. And she realizes that they signed this contract 50 years and took a massive advance to record an album that they've never made. So she's like, people, like, they depict the Electric Mayhem in this as the Grateful Dead. Like, they're just this band that everybody loves. They're a huge influence, and everyone just follows them on tour, and they have these diehard fans. And she's like, if we can record this album that they've owed us for 50 years and release it, it will sell like crazy because it's like the most anticipated album of all time. So it's basically just about her like trying. It's her trying to like wrangle this like group of just zonked out characters. There is an episode. This isn't a spoiler, much of a spoiler. There is an episode. It's episode 4 or 5 where they're like, we got writer's block. And the one song that we wrote for the Muppet movie, we wrote because we were like living under the stars, and it was like a beautiful experience. We need to go camping again. We need to go camping and rejuvenate those memories. So they go and they find a bag of marshmallows, and they start cooking the marshmallows on the fire, and then they start eating it, and everything starts to get psychedelic around them. And then the girl's like, oh my god, these marshmallows expired 30 years ago. You guys are tripping on bad marshmallows. And it's like the whole episode is just a 30-minute acid trip of each one of them finding
inspiration. Which is all any of us
ever
ever wanted from the Electric Mayhem. That's all. That's it.
Just a full-blown psychedelic 30-minute like acid trip where like one of them sees himself as they literally do a full stop-motion scene using the Muppets toys that you can buy of like stop-motion characters like walking around trying to figure out how to be normal again. Like, it's incredible. Like, it is so... Even if you don't watch the whole show, the episode's called Break On Through because every episode is named after a famous song from the 60s. The episode Break On Through is the one where they trip on expired marshmallows in the middle of the desert.
It's incredible. That's incredible. That's the best safe way to be like, how do we put a hallucination on a Disney show? It's brilliant.
And Scott, send us home. What's something that you watched, listened to, rocked out to, loved? I don't know. You do a lot of things. You're a multi-layered human.
We are not done with it, obviously, because as of recording, and the season's not done. But as with last week's episode, I need to pick one of you guys' brains about your opinion. Matt doesn't like Maisel season 5. He has said so to me, and I don't understand it because I'm having a blast.
So here's what I don't. So here's my
Marvelous
problem.
Mrs. Maisel for the
Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. So I haven't watched
the new
the
watchers.
newest episode at the time that we're recording this. By the time this comes out, it's all done and both of us have finished it, I'm sure.
Yeah.
The episode that was the roast, I finally started to get on board. My problem was I was like, I couldn't wrap my head around what the thesis was anymore, where I'm like, we get these flash forwards that all the flash forwards do is establish what I've already known and thought, which is that Midge is a fucking monster of a person. And then we just get this like 2-minute snapshot that like everybody's life is worse because she became famous, basically. And then we like jump into the past. And I guess if it was just like a random season, I wouldn't have cared as much. But I'm like, this is the last season of the show. I feel like there's so many questions. The flash forwards aren't giving me any more answers closer to anything. Why is there a whole episode dedicated to Midge's parents essentially hiring an entire search party to find somebody? Like, I'm like, this is just like fucking cartoon nonsense right now. And there's only 8 more episodes to get me to a conclusion. Like, I was just getting so frustrated that I'm like, I felt like every episode was like fun and goofy, which is fine. Like, I love that for the Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, but like looking at it through the lens of a final season, I'm like, we are making no actual progress to what feels like an ending, and it was like stressing me out that it was going to be like very unsatisfactory. We finally got to that roast episode, and it started to like tie all those loose ends together a lot more. But yeah, those first like 4 or 5 episodes, I was like, what are we even fucking doing here? Like, that's what was like stressing me out for a really long time.
Okay, that's fine. I can accept that. I was just trying to understand because
it was narratively really baffling me, and I couldn't figure it out. Like you know, again, it's just if they were like, hey, next season is the last season, I'd be like, okay, I love this. They're giving me mystery of what caused everyone to hate Midge, and we're just having fun in the meanwhile. But I'm like, there's 4 episodes left and I don't know what the fuck is happening. It's a good show. I feel like that show will never hit the highs of that first season, though. I think that first season is
absolutely not.
is a flawless season of television. And honestly, I like the ride. I know you like the ride, but most people, I'm like, you know what? If you want to, you could just stop on season 1. It is a perfectly like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, it's a very put together first season in the sense of like, you want more, but it feels conclusive enough that you're like, okay.
If they hadn't gotten renewed, it would have still felt satisfying.
Yes. So it's like, if you're like not enjoying the ride when you're like halfway through season 2, like, you can pull out and just pretend that never happened, and it's a great. I would say it might be arguably the first season is in the contention for one of the best seasons of television I've ever watched. Like, I think it is a flawless season of television. Which is why I think I hold all the other ones to such a high bar that I get frustrated that they can't hit it.
They can't.
I feel like you just handed your what did you watch to me for 2 minutes.
That's fine. I did the same thing last week with Kyle. I just needed to understand you both a little better.
Gotcha.
Well, it's we always like to get to know each other here on Horror Movie Night, and I hope that you'll come to church with me next week, Scott.
I like that this is the new theme and joke.
Hey,
I will forget it next week, so don't worry.
That spontaneous combustion movie that we aren't going to watch, I could live it if you have me come to your church.
Be like, we made a short film remake of Spontaneous Combustion.
It's literally me taking 5 steps and then dying.
Hey guys, you can still catch us at Blobfest. We'll be at Blobfest in a couple weeks. I'll be at San Diego Comic-Con immediately after that. And as of today of our recording, I have sent the payment for RetroCon in September. I think there's a punk rock flea market in Akron sometime in August.
Dude,
so
we gotta have an upcoming event situation. Somewhere.
You know where? There's a great way to find out about all of the upcoming events is signing up for our Patreon. Just $1 still gets you the newsletter. $3. $3 gets you the newsletter. Sorry. $1 we appreciate you.
That goes without almost saying. But
That goes without saying. But yes, so there's some opportunities to meet at least one of us at various locations. And we will be back next week with even more horror movie night goodness.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.